welcome to another video. Today, you guys, we're working on a comic page. This is actually based on a comic that I did in my sketchbook, and I was like, I don't know what to draw for today, and I was looking at those comic pages, and I guess I could start making this into like an actual comic, or try to figure out how I would like to panel comics. I'm not very good at paneling. I don't practice very often, or really at all. Whenever I make comics in my sketchbook, I don't really think too much about the paneling or what I think that the page layout would actually look like if I made it into an actual real life comic page. And so this is me doing it for fun. The last time I think I drew comic paneling was when I did a redraw of some Dragon Ball Super comic panels. And so this is a little bit different from that. Kind of a lot of different from that. First and foremost, there's no backgrounds in this. And in those Dragon Ball Super panels, there were lots of backgrounds. I guess if we're being honest, there was only really one background. There was one panel with like a lot of background, and then like one panel that just had one tree in it. So was that a lot of backgrounds? I guess it's a lot of backgrounds when you compare it to this comic page, which has no backgrounds. This actually took me a really long time to do, you guys. Right before I give you the answer, just guess on how long you think this one comic page took me to do, to sketch and then all that other stuff all the way through. That's right, you guys. It took me 4.5 hours for one comic page. I don't know if that's fast or not. I genuinely have no idea. I guess I could probably look it up and try to see how long it really takes. But if we're being honest, it should have took me a lot less time, because I already thumbnailed the drawings out on in my sketchbook. So maybe I should have just like took pictures of those and used those as the initial thumbnail drawings instead of redoing the thumbnails and then doing the sketches over those. I probably could have done that, and it probably went by faster, but I did not think of that until literally as I'm recording this. So that probably would have cut the time down a little bit. But it's fine. I mean, I just really wanted to do this one page. I don't think I'm going to panel out or do like complete versions of this whole comic, just because it is actually pretty long. You guys will see it whenever I do my sketchbook tour, my most recent sketchbook that I finished. But yeah, it's like, how many panels is it? It's like 20 something panels. So no, it's more than that. It's a lot of panels, or at least individual drawings that I did for the comic. So I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to finish it, but I figured I would just do the one page, just so I can get a feel of kind of how I want to do comics and lay out comics eventually, when I eventually get to the point where I want to do comics, which I do want to do at some time in the future, and not anytime soon though, because honestly this process actually not really too bad. I was gonna say this was really hard, but honestly it was not too bad. The sketching was pretty okay, and I had to finagle a little bit, but I'm at the point where I kind of know what I want my characters to look like, and so I didn't really have to struggle too much with drawing them. I think really my struggle was mostly through like doing the speech bubbles and like trying to figure out what I wanted to make the speech bubbles look like. That was the hardest part for me anyway. They say when you make comics, you're supposed to plan out where you want the speech bubbles to go first, and so I did do that. But when I got to like adding in like the color and filling them in, I don't know why, I'm so stupid, you guys. For some reason I was drawing them with white, and then I was like, how am I going to outline these? When really I should have outlined them in black and then filled them in white. I don't know why I didn't do that. My brain was like working backwards for some reason. I was like, yeah, you got to draw them and then you outline them, right? I was like, no, you just draw them in the black and then you fill them in later. So I was like, when I was doing that, I was like, this is so hard. Why is this taking so fucking long? This must be an easier way to do this. And I was like, my brain was thinking in reverse. So that was probably the hardest part of the process for me. But other than that, yeah, I decided I wanted to keep the line art very thin. And the reason for that is it's just pretty simple. I felt like it would be easier probably for me if I kept the line art a little bit thinner. And also I feel like it's pretty on par with regular comics or manga, especially. The line art is pretty thin. And also I was like, when I was doing it and I was making the lines a little bit thicker in some places, I was like, I don't like the way that looks. And so honestly, just for simplicity's sake, I kept the line art very thin. I didn't really put too much line variation in it at all, or I actually didn't put any line variation in it at all, which I probably should have done, honestly, but I was like, I don't want to. And also when I was doing it in certain areas, I was like, I think it's standing out too much and making it look strange. So I kept the line art pretty thin and pretty uniform all the way around as best as I could. And then after that, I just colored in with gray tones, and I think I'm going to try to download some screen tone brushes, just because I feel like just adding in gray tones is making it look a little bit strange, and just not appealing in a way that I wanted. For a while I was like, maybe I should color it in full color, and then I was like, fuck that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not entirely sure what each of these characters' colors are anyway. I mean, I know most of them have like black hair, which is like probably not good. They don't stand out too much from each other on like in like a lineup. Probably like, I have so many people with black hair, so I might might switch that up. I mean, in real life, most people have brown hair anyway, right? But I'm thinking maybe just because this is like a comic, I'm like, I feel like maybe they don't stand out from each other too much. Like four out of how many characters? 4 out of the 6 characters in this drawing have black hair. I feel like that's too many. And there's actually in their whole friend group, out of all of the characters, I would say 5 out of the 8 of them have black hair, which is not good for standout. It's in like a lineup, so I have to figure out a difference for hair colors. Maybe just vary them a little bit more. But in like a black and white comic, I mean, how many people have black hair? Probably a lot, right? I don't know, you guys. I kind of skipped over talking about the sketching process. Even though the sketching process took me the longest amount of time, I really don't have too much to say about the sketches, just because I did pretty much just take them pretty much one for one from the comics the comic paneling that I had done in my sketchbook. The only frame is probably that one on the what's it called, on the right side with the 3 characters. That one is just a little bit different, just because originally I wanted that panel to have 5 characters, but I was like, no. And when I was doing it in my sketchbook, it had 5 characters, and I was like, that's too many, and it didn't really make sense for those other 2 characters to be there. And so I just shrunk it down to the 3 of them, and that one was a little bit harder for me to sketch because the layout was a little bit different, and I was like really struggling on how to get all 3 of them to fit into the frame without making it look weird. You guys can let me know if it does look weird. I think that it kind of does. But yeah, I just honestly, out of all this, the hardest part was doing the speech bubbles, and I think it's just because I made it overly complicated and I fucked myself over when it came to that. And the coloring was pretty easy. I was just mostly filling in just flat layers of stuff. I didn't want to go too crazy with shading or anything like that, just because I'm lazy, and this honestly, it was already taking me 4.5 hours, so it's taking me a really long time, and I was like, I don't want to do anything too complicated. I wanted to be a little bit reminiscent of the style that I was doing those drawings of Nick and Kira and their subordinates. Those ones I did of all the blushing faces, I wanted to look a little bit similar to that, but I don't think I did a good job, especially on the eyes. I think I fucked up the eyes for all of these. And so for next time, I'm gonna have to figure out what kind of eye coloring style I want to do for this sort of thing. I want to hear you guys see me adding the speech bubbles, and they fucking suck. I don't know how readable this comic is, if I'm being honest. And I watched a lot of videos about how to make comics and stuff, and they're like, the most important thing about your comic is it doesn't have to necessarily look good. The art doesn't have to necessarily be great, but it has to be readable. And if your comic is not readable, that's like the worst thing, because people are going to stop reading it, because just like if the thought bubbles or like the speech bubbles are messed up, or if the font is weird, people are not going to want to read it. If you guys can go ahead and let me know if this is readable to you. I think it might not be, just because the way the footage is for Procreate, it makes it like weirdly what's it called, low resolution whenever you do a speed paint, which is sad. But let me know if it's readable, because honestly, I was looking at it, I was like, I can read it, but I have it like really high, like not DPI. Well, it is at a really high DPI. It's at 600 DPI, but it's like really high resolution for me. So I think that once I upload it to YouTube, it's gonna like shrink the resolution of it pretty significantly. But you guys can let me know if it's readable. And then also, I kind of kicked myself in the pants a little bit after I finished looking at this, because when I was inking it, I was like, oh, this has a lot of tangents, and you know what, I could have made less tangents, but I was like, I don't want to, this is taking forever. If I was able to spend more time, I am able to spend more time, but if I was really gonna like make this like for publishing or whatever, and not just for fun, I spent a little bit more time making sure that I don't have any tangents, because tangents really make it struggle with the readability, and especially like the character's hair and where their glasses overlap and stuff. I feel like there's just so many tangents, it just makes it really hard to read what's actually happening on the character's faces and whatnot. So next time I do this, I'm gonna have to avoid tangent lines where things are not overlapping with each other but lining up perfectly. If you guys know what tangents are, I ran out of time, so I can't really tell you about it, but maybe next time I will. Thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. I will go ahead and see you next one. Bye.